to do, no need for God, you forget God, never mind God. But if you are in the sunset, you will think of God. You will remember God. You will worship God. And remember to meet the sunrise in the spirit of worship, in the spirit of humility. So here we have a major adjustment to make. Our understanding of day is contra to the understanding of the Lord of the day. The week, okay. Our week is problematic because the Lord has very clearly commanded that the seventh day is the rest day. For some reason that Brother Butch will explain in his sequel to the calendar of God, this was stolen from us. Okay, now here is the big debate. Does it really matter? Does it really matter that we worship the Lord on the first day, which we call Sunday? Does it have to be Sabbath, which in our calendar is Saturday? Here is the matter. Here is the big problem. Because when the Lord fixes the time, remember, it's the appointed time. He brings gifts and blessings to that appointed time. And if you are not there, you miss it. That's the problem. That's why we are really missing so much of the blessing of God, because He said that is a permanent ordinance that is to be observed for generations. And we have become brighter than God. We changed His set times and His set laws. The Lord already said, I will meet you every week on the seventh day. When you rest, I'll bring all my blessings. I have been waiting here for you. You are not here. I go home, and then you come the next day. I'm sorry, I've already gone home. But Lord, can we not change? I am God. I have set the date. This is my permanent ordinance. So here, all the churches across the board have a real problem here. Okay? So, I do not know how Brother Butch will handle this, but that is the set time of the Lord. And it starts from Friday evening and ends Saturday evening. It is a season for rest, worship, meditation. And this is the most difficult part for us. Everybody no work, even the animals, they're entitled to rest. If you check the Bible, nobody is supposed to work on that day because that is God's genius and wisdom for recharging us, for blessing us. Okay? So it is a time for meditation, rest, and relaxation. Then we also need to make adjustments on the month and the year. This is major adjustments. Okay? Look at the calendar that we keep. Okay? This is January, February, March, up to December. This is our calendar. This is God's calendar. Okay? The new year of the Lord is the month of Nisan, where we already celebrate March going into April. But Nisan is the first month of the Lord's calendar. And there are 3 feasts observed there. Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits. Then Feast of Pentecost is celebrated in the month of Sivan, which corresponds to May-June calendar. Then trumpets here in September by our calendar, but month of Tishri by their calendar, after a long period of time. And the Feast of Tabernacles and the Queen Esther celebration of Hanukkah is celebrated here. Okay. Now, here is the important thing. Because you will ask, what is the application of this to me? I am a modern day 2014 believer. Why am I being lectured about the feast of the Lord that were for Israel? You know why? Number 1, the Lord ordained the feasts, which are permanent, as a regular check for the people of God to check their walk with the Lord. I will explain that in the next slide. But the feasts are God's way of checking, allowing us to check ourselves every year. I will demonstrate that. It is an annual barometer, and there is the Jewish concept, which is found in the Bible, of open portal or open heaven only at set times. On the feasts, the Lord will open the heaven for blessing. So you check yourself down here, based on the theme of the feast, you check yourself, Passover, unleavened bread, first fruit, Pentecost, trumpets, etc., etc. You check yourself. Find out if you are walking with me, because I have here a whole set of blessings to be poured out upon you, also judgments that will come down upon you if you do not observe what I have declared. Okay. For example, look at this. Look at this. Feast of the Passover, which is the month of Nisan, which by our calendar sometimes is in the end part of March or early part of April. This is a time to reappreciate what Jesus has done, being the sacrificial lamb, and to remember all of God's redemptive acts. In Israel, they celebrate this not only recounting the Red Sea crossing, but they remember everything the Lord has done for them. The plague sent on Egypt, the manna and water in the wilderness, the pillar of fire and cloud. The church does not have a discipline for remembering all the goodness of the Lord throughout the year. If, for example, every feast of the Passover, if the church will only do this, remember the mighty acts of God, the church will be very, very blessed. So, when does the Lord want us to do that? In this month of the time of the Passover. Why would the Lord insist that it be remembered at that time and not on any other time? Because that time is sacred to the Lord, because that was the time when they crucified Jesus Christ. The whole heaven observes that. When Jesus was crucified, even heaven itself remembers that. Here is one strange thing about the picture of heaven. And even when you read the book of people who have gone to heaven and have come down, the way they describe. There is a song in the book of Revelation where it says, "Worthy, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive honor and glory, because the Lamb was slain before the foundation of the world." In the book of Seneca Jody, he explained when he went to heaven, they saw Jesus still with his wounds on his hands and feet, and the scars are still on his head. He did not have plastic surgery to repair his appearance, so that every time the angels see him, they just are hit by his sacrifice, and they just fall down and bow down. Worthy, worthy, worthy is the Lamb. And they remember the date when it was done. In heaven, they continue to honor that. They hope that the people on earth would also celebrate and observe that in the same way that they do in heaven. But if we just let the time skip and pass, there is no observance, we miss the blessing that comes during this time. The Feast of the Unleavened Bread. This is a very beautiful feast if only the church will observe this. This is the feast celebrating the purity of Jesus. He is indestructible by death because he has no leaven, he has no sin. This is observed by the Jews, whereby the people would look for leaven in all their houses and bring them out, because there should be no leaven in the house during this time. How is it supposed to be celebrated by the church today? There should be at least one time every year when we should spiritually clean up our house to find out if there is any pornographic material in our closets, if there are stupid and wicked things in our equipments, etc., if there is anything abominable and shameless and offensive to the Lord, at least once a year, because the Jews celebrate that in their time. The church who is engrafted to Israel does not connect with its Jewish roots, does not understand its Jewish roots. So, the pornographic material, the rock music, the dragon symbols continue to pile up in the house, bringing curse and curse and curse because we do not observe the feast of the unleavened bread. So we are missing on the blessings of the Lord for failure to understand the feast. First, Feast of First Fruits. Feast of First Fruit is God's celebration of harvest. This celebrates the resurrection of Jesus as first fruit from among the dead. If we apply it today, this is March and April in our time, especially in Negros, that is right in the middle of the harvest season of the sugar industry. That is a good time because the economy is high, the economy is good. People have money because that is the height of the sugar cycle. The banks are, the people are buying everything. If only the Christians in Negros will decide that that is the time to bring gifts to the Lord, to bring first fruits to the Lord. Because of the harvest, can you imagine the blessing it will bring to our island and our people? But we have no understanding of the Feast of First Fruits. We do not celebrate the first fruit, so we just let this time skip. How about Pentecost? The Feast of Shavuot, which is the month of Sivan in the Hebrew calendar, which overlaps May and June by our calendar. This is the longest feast. What is important with the Feast of Pentecost? Two things. This was the time when the Lord gave the law or the word to Moses. This was also the same time when the Spirit was poured out on Pentecost. So, the word and the Spirit was released on the Feast of Pentecost. If we only apply this today, every year, if only the church will seek a fresh word from the Lord, seek a fresh Spirit outpouring from the Lord in this month of Pentecost, because heavens are opened at that month, at that time. The Feast of Pentecost, the angels of the Lord understand that time, understand that season, they understand that significance. So they are waiting to pour forth fresh word. They are waiting to release new understanding of Bible or the word. They are waiting to release new spirit movement, but the church is lipong. Not seeking the Lord, not understanding the Feast of Pentecost, so they miss out on the blessing. Feast of Trumpets. This is a time of solemn assembly. Trumpets, prepare for war, seek God's favor, prepare for coming king, prepare for the coming groom. This would have been a good time for the church to re-examine its bridal position and end-time preparedness, regroup its forces and army to check whether we, in the assembly of the Lord, are really prepared for His coming. The Day of Atonement, this is Yom Kippur, a time to afflict oneself. This is just one day where 25 hours are spent on fasting and praying, where believers spend their day in the synagogue. What if the church has one day lang, that they will fast together in the spirit of the Day of Atonement and just reflect? And there are blessings attached to this, but we also do not observe this, so we miss out on the blessing. The Feast of Tabernacles is looking forward to the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. What if the church today has an annual end times update and assessment of all prophetic developments with a view to prepare for the coming of the Lord in the spirit of the Feast of Tabernacle, expecting the second coming of the Lord? Okay. Remember that these feasts have major blessings. The feasts of the Lord are tied to the Abrahamic covenant. The blessings are God's protection, God's provision, and God's promises. During those periods of time, the Lord is just waiting to release those blessings. And it is called seasonal portal. Maybe Brother Butch can explain this further. I'll just give a quick overview of this. What is seasonal portal? That is when the Lord said, I shall open to you of my good treasury, the heavens. The Lord shall open to you His good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain of your land in its season, and to bless all the works of your hands, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. It is open heaven season. All the feasts are open heavens. All the angels of the Lord are willing to deliver goods, blessing, if we only observe the